Oh. Is that one working? Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you here today. My glasses. My name is Cheryl Wisnack. I'm the Senior Director of Finance and Administration for the Senior Vice President of the Office of Academic Affairs. I'm a member of the Chart of Accounts Committee, the Advisory Committee. When I first started working at Rutgers years ago, and I recognize some faces here that also worked years ago, we used paper requisitions, pencils, and paper ledger reports. Over our 250 years plus here at Rutgers, we have transitioned to different types of tools and systems. Some were deployed a little smoother than others. We have always worked through the difficulties of each deployment. Over the course of the last 6 months, the Chart of Accounts Advisory Committee has met weekly and discussed the difficulties and frustrations we all are experiencing with its use and ways to improve as we move forward. Topics such as use of chart strings, business lines, fund types, and projects have been discussed. During our discussions, it was clear business rules and processes, manuals and instruction are truly needed so that we are all trained and using the chart and systems all the same way. The Chart of Accounts Advisory Committee has approved the content of the open forum today. I am confident the changes made will serve the university well. Although we are all frustrated, things are getting better, and it is encouraging to see all of you here today committed as I am to see this through. Now more than ever, our university needs us to partner and achieve the success we have always demonstrated as Rutgers University employees. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kathy Dettloff, Vice President of Financial Planning and Budgeting here at Rutgers, and I am one of the leaders of the Chart of Accounts Initiative, and want to talk to you today about the changes that are going to go into place. Before we get started, I just want to do some housekeeping. So all these materials that you'll see today are already available online, so you don't need to take pictures. You can take notes if you want, but we are committed to putting all these resources online. There are also sign-in sheets going around and available, so we ask that you just make sure you get your name on one of them. We are trying to keep track of who was able to attend and maybe those we are missing. So I will try to, this is really your session. So this is what's important. I know there's a lot of people in the room, but if I am going too quickly or you have questions throughout, just stop me, right? I said when I worked in Maryland and Delaware, being born and raised in New Jersey, people said all the time, you talk too fast. I've been here a year and a half, and no one has told me that yet, so it's really good to be home. So we will go through the material today. We are trying to make it as simple as possible, and we are really committed to making this a seamless transition over the next several weeks. There are often times that I will pass questions off to my colleagues, so I want to let you know who I have here today with me. I have Betsy Cafaro from the Controller's Office, Ernie DeSandro from the Controller's Office, and Ed Shear from the Budget Office. We love to try to solution on the spot. That is not a good thing to do. So if we start doing that, you just need to stop us because we really want to be thoughtful and deliberate in answering your questions. If we are not able to answer them here today, we will certainly follow up with you. But we want to just make sure we don't commit to something that we can't follow through on. So on today's agenda, I will walk you through a number of system changes that are going to be put into place that will really control what you are able to do. We will be purposely limiting actions that you can take when you're transacting business, but in this case, it's actually a really good thing. These changes will pertain to Oracle, RU Marketplace, PeopleSoft, and some of the other feeder systems that you're working with on a daily basis. Important to the success of this is I will walk you through what we're going to do in Central, what you need to do, and then I'm also going to tell you about additional learning materials and opportunities that will be made available to you to ensure that the transition will be seamless and that you're able to stay on track. At the end, all of these changes are truly intended to make your job a lot easier day in and day out. Well, how did we get here? Well, after working with the Chart of Accounts for a while, it became clear that there was a lot going on that was not anticipated when the chart was developed, and we know it can be better. We know that by making changes, improving controls, better education, and providing guidance, support, and even directives at times, but the end goal is truly simple. And you've seen this goal before if you've attended town halls. Probably since just a couple of months after I got here, I started the Chart of Accounts Initiative, and we said, really, what is our guiding principle? And that goal is that we want to improve how we support our operations by making the Chart of Accounts simpler to use, ensuring the data are accurate and easily reportable across the university, and making certain that the project ledger interacts seamlessly with the general ledger. The goal is simple, but it has not been easy for us. So I'm not doing this on my own. I recognize that there are many different perspectives throughout the university that must be valued, so I put together an advisory group. This group was created in a very thoughtful and deliberate manner. Not only did we ensure that each of the chancellor's offices were represented, I also wanted to make sure all the different lines of business was represented. So you'll see people on this list from auxiliaries, facilities, strong teaching colleges, strong research centers, and then clinical is represented as well. We needed to make sure we had all those perspectives in the rooms before we anticipated making any changes because they were going to impact everyone. So as you see up here, we have my internal team, some of which are here today, but that internal team is made up of people from the controller's office and the budget office, as well as somebody from audits who's just really good with data. We have support from the PMO. We also have a small group of external consultants that are more working on the future state of the Chart of Accounts. But then over here on the right is that group I referred to as the Campus Advisory Committee. These are names that should look familiar to you, at least one or two. These are really your go-to people. So if you have questions now or several months from now, these are the people you should reach out to if you're familiar with them. I am always available to each one of you as well. We just thought you might be more comfortable going to people that you interact with on a regular basis. So for a little bit of background, the chart was developed with the best intentions in mind. They wanted to make sure that the university at all various different levels had the flexibility to report the way they needed to, and recognizing that that was going to be different for everybody. It really ensured maximum flexibility with the Chart of Accounts. Unfortunately, with across the institution, we couldn't really handle that because it was allowing users to enter any type of chart strings, whether purposely or unintentionally, leading to just a bunch of invalid chart string combinations, and the number of those combinations started to run wild. So we're not currently following best practices, and I think that was due to lack of documentation on just some standard transactions, inconsistent use of the chart, and particularly we are struggling with the lack of clarity on how the university should be using the project subledger. So what are we going to do? By July 1, we are going to implement system changes and controls with the true end goal of making reconciliation easier and ensuring that we begin fiscal year 19 with accurate and easily reportable data. I missed my byline somewhere. It's we're going to be clean in 19. That's what we keep saying. So today we're going to focus on cross-validation rules, and you'll often hear us refer to these as CVRs. These are rules that prevent the end user from creating unwanted transactions in the system. So this is where I said we're going to start controlling what you're able to put in. We're going to explain these in two different segments. One is you're going to be forced to only use valid UDO combinations. And then also we want to make sure that all your other chart strings make sense together too. So you have 10 chart strings, and some just shouldn't be used together. So we're going to put systems in place that ensure that. Additionally, we're going to focus today on subledger accounting rules. You'll also hear us refer to these as SLAs. And these are rules that dictate how transactions that are put into the project ledger flow into the general ledger. And these three are the ones we're going to discuss today. We're going to ensure that project costs and revenues follow the project UDO setup. We're going to talk about how freight and miscellaneous lines on accounts payable invoices are handled, and also F&A cost recoveries and how they're going to flow into the general ledger. So the UDO combinations, just those first three segments, they should really reflect your organization, right? So kind of like your org chart, to simplify it. So these should not be being created on the fly. At the inception of the new chart of accounts, when people started budgeting before that fiscal year, there were about 2,100 UDO combinations that were budgeted to. We did recognize that that might grow maybe by 5% because we didn't have any controls in the system. When we hit 5,000 really quickly, we realized that something was going on that shouldn't be, and we needed to do something. Quite frankly, there were errors. Whether it be user errors, there were subledger accounting rule errors, system errors, Central was making errors, all leading to the creation of these UDO combinations that didn't make sense. So these are all still out there. So we need to take action. So we're going to do it in phases. First, we need to make sure we do not create any more. So today, if you went back, you wanted to do a journal transaction, you typed in a UDO combination that totally didn't make sense, now I have 5,001 UDO combinations. So we're going to put a control in place that says if the combination does not exist today, you cannot use it. You cannot create it on the fly anymore. Second, even if the combination exists today and you are using it, if it has not been identified as a valid combination, you will no longer be able to use it on new transactions. And then finally, what this really means across the board is that you will be required, wait, I got another, there we go. You will be required to only use valid UDOs on your new transactions. I don't have a computer set. So I need to show you where the valid lists are. I'm looking because usually now I step over to the computer and I guide you through where to find it, and there's no computer here. So that's why I'm like, Stephanie, I don't have a computer. So they are available on the Controller's Office website. And I want to just walk, it's a simple spreadsheet, but if you don't know where to find it, you certainly can't use it. So what we did is we just have a spreadsheet, and we work through the Chancellor's Office or your central unit reps with reviewing, and I know they cascaded it down to some of you, that said, here are all the ones out there. Because many of you may have within your unit and division a combination that you don't even know is there. So we needed to look and review them and go through and say which ones should people be using versus which ones shouldn't people be using. So if you go to the Controller's Office website, let's go back a little bit. If you go to the Controller's Office website, one of the links, it says Chart of Accounts Initiatives, and this is always going to be a good place where you're going to find all the resources. But if you go, it's the Chart of Account Initiatives, and then right on the left-hand side, it's valid and invalid UDOs. And then you open it up, it's a simple Excel spreadsheet that you'll be able to filter on your unit and your division to find out what is out there. But more importantly, when you go to the valid sheet, start looking for the ones that you should be using. I would even recommend making yourself a cheat sheet. Here are the ones I should be using. Maybe making cheat sheets for people that are in the units below you. Maybe you have, people who aren't as familiar with the chart of accounts that just are kind of like, tell me what I should be using. So that's where you find that information. If you have any questions, if you go out there and you're like, wait a minute, the charge string that I use every day is invalid, kind of filter it up. So go to your central unit rep, go to your chancellor's office. If you don't get answers, come to me and we'll definitely point you in the right direction. So invalid chart string combinations. So this is an interesting one. So we have these 10 chart strings out there. There's many different values for each segment, but there are some that just do not belong together. For example, early in fiscal year 17, the budget office was recording healthcare revenue. I am the last person you want taking your blood, testing your blood pressure. I was not holding a clinic in my office, yet apparently by the financial statements it looked like I was. So there are certain things that just should not go together. And the cross-validation rules that we are going to put in place are going to ensure that those combinations that don't follow logic will not be allowed. So here's just another example I want to walk you through. Fund types 145 and 390 are medical contracts for the state of New Jersey. Our rule is going to say that these two fund types can only be used with business lines related to healthcare and clinical business. So that totally makes sense, right? The School of Engineering probably shouldn't have a medical contract with the state of New Jersey. Right now, if someone made a typographical error, School of Engineering could record activity in that business line. There are 43 rules just like this that will be phased in through June 30th. So this is all with the goal of starting fiscal year 19 going forward, all our data will be clean. It's really important that you start to become familiar with these rules now and start following them, so that way it's not like an abrupt roadblock on July 1. By the time July 1 comes, you should be familiar with these. Again, these can be found on the Controller's Office website. We're going to open the spreadsheet, but I'm going to forewarn you. When it was first sent to me, I was like, whoa, this is a lot. I don't know how to read it. Somebody come walk me through it. So we're going to show you it's in that same Chart of Account Initiative spot, cross-validation rules as of April 2018, because we imagine there may be more coming. And it's a big spreadsheet. So you go down, and it's just a really big spreadsheet. So just to walk you through, the first column is what we're calling the rule name. More technical lingo than you really need to worry about. It's really this description. So this first one says, this rule enforces that house staff and affiliated revenue accounts can only be used in combination with certain RBHS units. They are the only units that we should be recording that type of revenue on. If you try to do something else, you will receive an error message, and it will tell you that your account value is not appropriate for the unit that you're trying to use it with. And then just some of the filter content. So what this rule, this is getting a little technical, but anyway, what this rule says is it's going to look at the account. If these are the account numbers, then it needs to look for this unit. That's what the unit number needs to be. And if it's not that, it's an error. Okay? So 43 of these, it's a lot, but you're not going to be breaking every one. Right? So don't sit out there and go, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to make this transaction. You will, because for the most cases, you may be violating one, maybe two, and maybe really infrequently. So here is the example that goes with the Fund 145 and 390 example. It says this rule enforces that those medical contracts in those funds can only be used with those business lines in the 3,500 range. And again, it tells you what the error message will be. The fund type value used is not valid with the business lines. So as much as we would like for those error messages to be more specific, we have to work within the number of chart fields, character strings that we have and things like that. So we're doing the best we can. So just to give you an idea of what some of these chart of account CVRs will pertain to, it will look at, for this example, it looks at certain accounts and says they can only be used with certain units. It looks at certain fund types and says it can only be used with certain accounts. Other fund types can only be used with certain business lines. Oops. Fund type 320 can only be used with certain units, and certain units should only be used with certain business lines. So some of these will pertain to auxiliary enterprises. If you're an auxiliary unit, your revenue should be posted under auxiliary revenue, not other revenue, not instructional revenue, not fee revenue. So that's what this is all ensuring, that we have really good accounting practices. It's forcing us to be better at our jobs. So at the beginning, I said I was going to tell you what we were going to do here in Central. We are going to create those CVRs to ensure the use of valid combinations in RU Marketplace and PeopleSoft on May 7th. So what this will mean is that new requisitions in RU Marketplace and all new transactions in PeopleSoft will require valid combinations or will be rejected. So if you get anything out of this, focus on the word new. So if you have things currently in place, for now you're okay. But we want to start. Remember, we said we're going to phase it, so we want to start. Any new requisitions or new transactions in PeopleSoft will need a valid combination. We've already started testing these cross-validation rules and will continue to do so through May 31st. One of the most important parts of this initiative and why I am so sure we are going to be successful is because of the testing. So we can put the CVRs into the Oracle system but not turn them on. And you guys are just going to keep doing business like you always do. What that allows us to do, and it will allow you to do, is run reports on those rules that say, if the rules were turned on, what are the transactions that are breaking the cross-validation rules? Because then you know what you have to fix, right? So we will, those reports will be available May 7th. We will make them available for you to run, but we will also run them and post them on that same Chart of Accounts initiative. That way you could just look at them if you need to. You'll be able to filter them. And the reports posted will identify the chart string combinations that are in violations of any of the rules. So I often refer to this as exception reporting, right? Those transactions that if you decide to do them on July 15th would be kicked out and not be put into the system. So all the CVRs will be active on June 30th. So this is kind of your learning period, right? You start May 7th, you figure out what you're in violation, and then by July 1, we should all be good to go. So what exactly is it that you have to do? We've tried to make this as easy as possible, although I know it's not easy. We do want to try to make it seamless. So actions that need to take place is, first and foremost, we need to update the invalid UDOs that are in Marketplace by April 25th. You will be notified if you are the one with an invalid combination in RU Marketplace. This pertains to the approval rules. So there may be invalid combinations in RU Marketplace that have approval rules. But there are also valid combinations that don't have approval rules. So you really need to look at both of them, because if you want to start using a valid combination that doesn't have approval rules, we need to make those updates as well. Additionally, any department default accounts in PeopleSoft are going to need to be updated. So what we're going to do is we're going to distribute a report on April 23rd, which is Monday, so that's coming up real quick. And that report will identify those UDO combinations that need to be updated. And you'll have a month to do that. All employee charging instructions, if they're on an invalid UDO combination, will need to be updated. Again, we're going to distribute the report to you that will identify whether you are using an invalid combination, and you'll need to update them by May 23rd. The existing purchase orders are a little bit different. Here, same process. We're going to distribute a report to you that's going to say if your purchase order needs to be updated. They need to be updated by May 23rd, except in this instance, you are going to provide the feedback to Central, and Central is actually going to do the update. We've just identified a more efficient way to do it, so we'll gather your input, and then we'll actually make those changes. And what's going to be really important is that you yourself monitor those exception reports. Now, if I'm you and I'm sitting out there, I'm thinking, she has just asked me to do a lot. But I will tell you, this will not apply to everyone, right? So everyone's not going to get a list of every UDO that they're currently using and say, change all your charging instructions. Everybody's not going to get a list of, here are the default accounts you're using in PeopleSoft. You'll get some, you'll get some, you'll get some. We are really not anticipating this being a huge lift for anyone. So if you start getting bombarded with these reports on April 23rd and are like, whoa, my departments are doing just about every violation that they're going to stop, you need to contact us for help. We are here to help you. We want to partner with you. It's going to be a really important part of the success of this, because I can't have July 1 come and business stop. That is not that's not our goal here. Our goal is that when July 1 comes, people are running their reports at the end of the month and really happy that all the data is clean. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to help you. These reports will be distributed on April 23rd, or I think one of them is the 25th. This will really identify what steps you personally have to take, right? You'll look at the report and go, nope, I'm good on that one. Oh, nope, I got to do something on this one. So we're hosting webinars. That will be more tactical than this forum. It'll say, oh, you have to change your ECI. We're going to walk you through the steps of what you need to do. So these will be led by subject matter experts, not only from the PMO team, but also from the functional teams. We're looking at 2 sessions for each group of topics. The schedule will be out by the end of this week, so you can start planning. They'll probably be about 90 minutes each. We want to leave plenty of time for question and answers, because we only know what we know, and you know what you know, so we need to make sure we cover all the bases. You'll see that some of the sessions cover more than one topic. When we were putting the information together, it just seemed that one kind of flowed into the other, so it made sense to do them together. So that's kind of how we put the schedule together. We know you have a lot on your plate, so we want to make sure we try to correct as many of these transactions prior to June 30th as possible. So these webinars, once you identify what you have to do, should really give you the information that you need to then take the steps to do it. If you can't view them live, they will be available recorded. I think this gives us two benefits. One is, although we really do recommend you view them live because that gives you the ability to answer questions, by recording it, you can go back, right? Then when you're actually trying to start doing it, you can say, wait a minute, I heard in the webinar I should do X. Well, let me go back and just reinforce what they told us. I've said a lot so far. I said, I'm sick of hearing myself talk after doing 4 of these. I can't imagine what the people that are traveling with me feel like. I want to stop here and give you the opportunity to ask some questions. Tell me what wasn't clear, what may need some reinforcement. I must be getting better then. Oh, I'm supposed to tell you too, before you ask questions, we have to give you a mic because they are recording this, which makes me very nervous.
Hi.
Hi.
So if you're able to validate the UDOs that's used by mistake, should you do a journal entry trying to fix what happened in FY17 and move it so you can zero out that UDO? Or that's something Central will take care of?
Okay, so Central not taking care of it.
Good.
Okay. I always hesitate to answer this question very, very quickly. So my gut is always to say, if you have something wrong in the general ledger, you should correct it. That's one thing. Some of this, and I'm actually going to start talking about this now, and this will help answer the question. So there we said, right at the beginning, we expected 2,100 UDO combinations. We have, when we identified the valid combinations, they're actually about 2,200, which makes total sense to us. But that means we have another 3,000 out there, a lot of which have balances in them. So you're kind of saying, well, should I move those balances? Right now, we're saying that's up to you, okay? So we know the balances need to be moved, but we also know we can't get everything accomplished by June 30th. And we made the decision that it was more important to get clean data for 19 than it was to worry about all the manipulations. So what we have said is, we know they're out there. We recognize they're probably causing you a little bit of heartache, but we will put a process in place after we get all these CVRs and everything's going well and the sun may actually come out sometime in July, and then we'll talk about moving balances. I also think, and I say think because I'm not 100% sure how this works, but the closing process in and of itself will help remove some of these balances because just what the system does is it pulls balances to a central location. So then when we're putting them back, instead of putting them back from where they came, we can start discussing putting them back where they belong. So that's my thinking, but we have not gone through all the steps of how we'll actually do that. But we're basically saying that's not going to happen by June 30, and that's okay. Does I think that answered your question? Really long-winded? So subledger accounting rules. Everyone can now take a deep breath because your work is over. The CVRs are really dictate a lot of the work that you need to do. The subledger accounting rules are things that we are going to put into place that you just need to be aware of. These are actually going to give us a lot of opportunities. This is where it will clean up a lot of the data. This is where I really get excited because we're starting to make progress. A lot of words on the slide, so let's just walk through it. The first subledger accounting rule says that we are going to derive the general ledger accounting from the project master data. So let's talk about right now. I have a project. It has a setup. That's where the revenue goes. I then put a transaction into the system for my project, and I could put the expense wherever the heck I want. And then we wonder why we can't reconcile projects to general ledger, because expenses are everywhere in the general ledger. This is going to stop that. This says this is going to ensure that costs and revenues go to the same UDO, which is dictated by the project setup. Particularly, the UDO will be derived from the project owning organization, not from the expenditure organization that's put in when transacting. So this is super important that you understand this. It's not optimal, and I recognize that, but it's important. So what's going to happen is if you're in SideQuest, and it's just we can't get the feeder systems to where we need them to be prior to June 30th. So you're in SideQuest. It's going to look exactly the same as it does today. You're going to enter your chart string. For many of those segments, it is not going to matter what you put in because it's following the project setup. We refer to it internally as a little bit of a head fake. So you could put in 900, 1500, 1, 2, 3, 4. If the project setup is 209, 6745, that's where it's going. For the fund type, it will be derived from the project task for all projects. The location and the business line will be derived from the project task master data for sponsored projects only. The reason we did that is we know a lot of people are using non-sponsored projects differently, and we wanted to give you the flexibility to be able to input the location and the business line. All of this will happen by May 31st. What you need to ensure is that your project setup is correct. Now, we did do an initiative where we collected all this data through March 31st. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you probably need to contact your central business rep or your chancellor's office because we did do this. We believe we have 90% of them back, if not more. So just continue to keep looking at your project setup. There is a report 13 out there that you can run that will give you your project setup. Don't I really sound like I know what I'm talking about? I wouldn't know report 13 if it kicked me. But it is out there. And the only thing you have to be aware of, all the information we collected throughout the last month has not been updated in that yet. So look at it now. Look at what you think it should be. Obviously, prior to May 31st, you can run that report and see what your project setup is that will be impacted by this.
Will that become an automatic feed where you just put the project in and then just put the account, and instead of the other information, it will just automatic? Since it's going to it's going to pull that UDO regardless.
Yeah.
Will that just be automatic?
So that is our goal. Our goal is to configure SideQuest in a way that either, I love to use the word derived to the system I did years ago, but that's not like an Oracle thing, but that, you put it in and then the other pieces will fill in automatically, or even just be blacked out so you're not under the impression that it matters. But that is our goal. We're just not able to get there by June 30th. PeopleSoft as well, Betsy.
Sorry. Will this rule apply to expense management application as well?
Will it apply to expense management? Yep.
So, question for you. When we put in the project into SideQuest, and we do have some projects that were attached to invalid UDOs, it kind of like fills in the UDO. It won't turn it back if we correct the UDO, will it?
Yes. So if you put in what you put in SideQuest, if it is not consistent with the project setup, it's going to the project setup. So your question about valid and invalid UDOs, what Sue Helino's group is doing now is looking at the information that came back. So we basically said, here are all the projects, what UDO should be on it, okay? People return that in. Now Sue's group is saying, okay, what they turned in, are they all valid UDOs? If they're not, her group is reaching out and saying, we need to adjust this. We need to have only valid UDOs on the projects, so that way when we make this live, all the revenues and expense are going to valid UDOs. Does that answer your question? No? Keep going.
So in the meantime, what do we do? I'm sorry. In the meantime, what do we do? Because we've been instructed to only use valid UDOs, yep. But certain projects are attached to the invalid UDO. So if I tell my people to change that, the system won't accept it?
No, it will, until May 31st.
Okay.
So these don't go live until May 31st.
Them properly then.
So go wild until May 31st, putting in whatever UDOs you want. No.
One last thing. If I'm understanding this right, the fund type can be different because I do have non-sponsored projects where where I use two different fund types based on the task.
Yes. It's because of two different tasks, yes.
Yeah, you can't override the fund type, so the task is set up with the correct fund type, and when you select that project and task, the fund type is derived. It's the only thing you don't have the option to override right now. And just going back to your question about the project, I mean, you should be looking at what the correct UDO is for that project, so reach out to your Okay, so definitely use that UDO until we turn on the system to automatically use the UDO that's on the project setup, but definitely find the mapping. And we could put that, are we putting that out on the controller's website too? We will, okay, yep.
So we should probably cheer on this one because it's real, you know, this is really going to make a difference. I think this is a big step for us. Two other smaller SLAs that we're putting into place. This one will impact you just because you need to know that. So our F&A cost recoveries right now, they are done manually at the end of the month through a journal entry, big pain. This will be automatic as of May 31st. So what that means for you, it's real time. So if you can't figure out what account we're going to use, it's 47,100. We think we've made that maybe a little too big on the slide, but 47,100, it'll be automatic in real time. So as things are going into the system, the revenue is recognized, the F&A will be generated. It will go to the account, the same UDO that's specified now. So none of that changes. You have to do nothing. It's just going to happen. The freight and miscellaneous lines on an invoice. So right now, if these do not appear on the purchase order, when the invoice comes in, it gets spread across the natural accounts that are pertinent to what you bought. And then you manually have to move them if you want to recognize them as freight. Beginning on May 31st, there will be a specific natural account for miscellaneous, a special natural account for freight, and that will just go to the appropriate place. Okay, so this is another really good one. The next two slides, together with the SLA on the revenue and expense going to the same place on the general ledger, this is really where we're going to gain a lot of leverage on our reconciliations. This says that for grant fund types, you can no longer put things into the general ledger. You need to put them through projects. This is something that we should have been doing all along, but we were not. So I'm sure when people got frustrated with this project system and it was not working correctly and they needed to get their expense in, they just put it in the general ledger, figuring later on we'll figure it out. This rule says you can't do that anymore. So it's going, I don't want to use the word force, but it's going to force you, when you have a project expense, to put it through projects. So basically, any transaction with a grant fund type on lines will be rejected. It ensures that no transactions can go into the grant fund types originated from users on the general ledger, and it prevents transactions from being booked only to the general ledger and bypassing projects altogether. So again, you don't have to do anything. May 31st, this rule goes into place, and you just need to start using projects as projects was intended. When we say grant fund types, here are those that we mean. I should count them. I keep saying there's like 12 or 14. Whenever you use these fund types, the transactions must be done via projects. So other initiatives. That's all the system stuff we're doing, the system controls that we're putting into place. But we are also working on other things just to make the chart of accounts easier to use. Some of the things that we noticed right off the bat is that when we looked at descriptions, they weren't really clear. Particularly for me, when I went into like that big spreadsheet, depending on where it was when you opened it, really depended on what you saw. So what I mean by this is you open the spreadsheet, you see professional services, and you go, oh, that's the natural account that I want. And you pick it. Well, when you pick it, you didn't realize that you were looking for an expense natural account, and that was a revenue natural account. Because nothing, unless you kind of went through the whole parent thing, you didn't really know. So we have gotten through unit, location, and business line, updating the descriptions. What we tried to do, at very least, was put the parent in front of it. So we ran into an issue with when we did RCM charges. When we were doing the RCM allocations, some of our locations were mixed up because one of the descriptions was Other New Brunswick. So it made sense for somebody in New Brunswick to say, oh, I don't fit into those other ones, it must be Other. Except that was actually a regional category, not a New Brunswick category. Right? So we realized we need to make these easier to read, easier to do. So take this example of Unit 290, School of Engineering. That's what it said. When you were looking for a unit, maybe you needed to transfer money to the School of Engineering, nothing tells you here that this is the New Brunswick School of Engineering. It could have been the Newark School of Engineering. So we've just put the parent location right in front of it and said, well, in this case, the New Brunswick School of Engineering. Things like professional services, now it's within a revenue parent that as soon as you pull it up, that's what you'll see. So this is just a resource that we've tried to make more intuitive. Policies, procedures, and guidance. So we said at the beginning, part of the thing that we identified as causing some of the issues that we have is that we really didn't have standard procedures going into the new Oracle system. Things as simple as transfers. We have one, maybe two transfer accounts for this whole entire university, and then you get this transfer number and you have no idea what's in it because it's everything but the kitchen sink. Sometimes even the kitchen sink is in there. So the Chart of Account Advisory Committee broke off into a subgroup. They looked at all the different ways people were using transfers across the university, really used a lot of data and said, okay, how can we break this down to have more transfer codes, but then at least the transfer codes would be more indicative of kind of what was happening. So there will be a policy on that. Here's my public service announcement. When you do a transfer, it's got to be a transfer on both sides. Please don't forget that. For expense recoveries, here is another category where people were using things throughout the university in many different ways that weren't best practice. Quite frankly, we had expense recoveries, if you just looked at them as a line item, over $100 million. And these are just truly another form of transfers between units. So it shouldn't be that big. We should be using expense recoveries on both sides as well. So this policy and procedure will explain how that works and will work in the future to ensure that we are not over-reporting certain expenditures and not under-reporting other expenditures. It'll make for a cleaner, general ledger. And then faculty funds. Here was a situation where there are 10 or 12 different ways that you can set up faculty funds that are all correct. But we want to be more consistent. We want to be transacting business consistently across the university. So again, a subgroup of the Chart of Accounts Committee got together. They looked at all different ways we can handle it. They decided that they wanted to keep faculty funds within the project ledger. That way a faculty member didn't need to know much except their project number. And then they could look at all the money they had to spend. So there's a policy for that. So we are going to roll these policies out for use in fiscal year 19. We believe that we will keep doing this, right? That we'll actually have some type of manual in good time that addresses all the things. So this is good for people who have been in their positions for a long time because we are making things consistent across the university, but particularly for somebody coming new into the university, I could speak firsthand. I've only been here 18 months. It's a lot, right? So this would really help someone get off the ground and learn how to do it. So again, this will be available on the Controller's Office website, and we hope that this really becomes a robust manual over time. You got to wait for the microphone because you need to be recorded too.
Thank you. In terms of the project string for the faculty funding, we've established sort of larger project numbers where the faculty were assigned the task. And the way you seem to be describing it was that all the faculty should have their own project, or maybe I misunderstood you.
Ed's going to answer you because I have no idea.
So what you described is the current process, and that's good for now. Future state, we're going to look to have project per faculty member for faculty funds. And when we can roll that out, we'll have to evaluate.
Okay, so here is where we attempted to put a timeline together. I find this very overwhelming, but how you kind of read it is the top basically says we have a lot going on over the next several weeks. I'm having open forums like this. You could attend another one. This one is also being recorded. You'll be able to, Stephanie's actually picking my best one and putting it online. So you'll be able to kind of go back and reinforce the messaging. I do ask that anybody that's not here, that you work with, that you recognize needs to be here, You tell them we have 2 more in New Brunswick next week. They are in RBHS buildings, but that doesn't matter. I pretty much say the same thing every time. But it really does give you the opportunity to ask the question and answers. We had yesterday at the medical school a lot of dialogue between people, which I thought was really helpful because someone was able to say, this is how I do it. I can come over to your office and show you. And I thought that was really helpful as well. So please encourage people to come. It is the only way this is going to be successful. But then it also tells you where, when the emails are coming out. April 23rd, big day, my new AVP starts. But then you'll also be getting all your reports that day. That really informs what you need to do next, right? You'll be able to look at those reports and say, okay, what webinars do I need to do next week? Because I want to know step by step what I need to do. So that's the actions of what you're required to do. And the bottom really is just for us, systematically, what do we have to make sure we put into place? What I want to go back and say about the monitoring, we are monitoring those reports too. Remember when I talked about the exception reporting? We're going to monitor those reports too on a daily basis. We need to, because I need those invalid transactions to go down dramatically every day. So Tom's not here. Tom Deshawn is my partner in this, and he said, there's like 100,000 out there now. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, that's not bad. I'm like, no, that's bad, right? But then he explained to me that because if someone puts in a transaction using the same UDO but charged 10 different natural accounts, that comes through as 10 different invalid transactions. But that still, to me, is a very scary number. So we need those to come down drastically every day. So if you wanted to be ahead of the game and start making your changes, that would be very much appreciated. So that exception reporting will also help identify for us who may not have attended this open forum, may have no idea what's going on. And if we don't reach out to them, we will reach out to them. But if we didn't, their business would come to an abrupt halt on July 1. And we do not want that to happen. So please spread the word that people do really need to come and be engaged to get this work done. It will benefit you, I promise. I hope to not hear about any reconciliation issues in 19. So just to really go over what we said, we are hoping that this comes through to you as like an iterative, fluid process because we don't want that halt on July 1, and we want to ensure there will not be a halt on July 1. Start making the changes, even start today. I'm just going to go back. What are my valid UDO combinations? Make myself a cheat sheet, and that's all I'm going to use. Then figure out what's on the other invalid ones that I've been using and what changes do I have to make. Be ready for those reports to come out next week. They'll really inform what you need to do. I recognize that people learn different ways. Some of you may be sitting out there saying, I'm not good with 200 people in a room. That's just not what I do. That's why the webinars can be really good for you as well. We will put all the resources online so that you can kind of learn at your own pace at your desk. That's for these materials as well as the webinars. They'll be recorded. We will have resource documents for you, all found in the same place in that chart of accounts. But we are making a commitment to you as well. We want to make sure that we are effective in our communications. We are really committed to comprehensive project management, so you know what to expect and when it's going to happen. But we also need your feedback, right? If you leave here today and go, I have no idea what she said, then you need to tell us, because then we have to do things differently. And that's really important. And again, we need your engagement and your leadership. So if you run a department, and maybe you have 10 people throughout your department that do transactions but don't really understand the chart of accounts or whatever, take the initiative to walk them through this. Take the initiative to make them a cheat sheet that says, hey, from now on, only use this. That's our request of you to make sure that this is successful. There is an evaluation survey online. It's like 7 questions. It probably won't even take you 5 minutes. That is your first way to give feedback to whether this was helpful. I think one of my first ones, I guaranteed at the beginning that would be a good use of your time. My team said you might want to stop saying guarantee, and I went, okay. But I do hope that you found this a good use of your time. I want to take questions. I want to take time for discussion. We're coming to you with a mic.
Will the chart standardization lead to standardizing the terminology across the systems where expense organizations, UDO, project organizations, will all start to be the same across PeopleSoft, Oracle, and Marketplace?
Are they all different now? Oh, Ernie said, oh, yeah, they're different. It will take time. We can definitely put that on our parking lot. So we need to make sure that across all our feeder systems that we have consistent naming conventions. Okay. Yep, fair point. Not on our list right now until later today.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, since the UDOs are changing, will the project string, contract number, and task numbers relate to the new UDOs?
Wait, can you say that again?
The contract number, task number, and project number, will they link to the new UDO?
Yeah, the UDO is actually at the project level. It's not at the task or the contract level. So the contract and the task are associated with the project, which is going to be, updated with your new UDOs. And that's the data collection that we just got on all 27,000 projects, 12,000 sponsored projects, and 15,000 non-sponsored projects. So we just got that UDO correction, listing back, and that's what we're reviewing now. We're going to update the project soon.
So your answer is yes. I also wanted to make people aware, as you're entering your budgets into Hyperion, the budget team is making sure that you're not entering budgets into invalid combinations. So you may be hearing back. That's a big lift, so if you realize and wanted to give us a call, that would be a little helpful. But in the meantime, we're vetting to ensure that people are not budgeting to invalid UDO combinations.
How will SWRJs be affected, because they're not really linked to any system?
This is the salary wage. So they're not. Okay. We're probably going to have to get back to you, because I'm thinking it has some link to PeopleSoft, but I know enough not to say anything. Okay, we can follow up, which makes me, again, all the questions that we're getting at the forum, whether we answer them right on site or we need to follow up, they will be listed on a web page on the Controller's Office website. So that way you all will get the benefit of questions that were asked at other open forums as well. That's going to be a great resource as well. And that will be one of the questions that we follow up on.
Hi. Sorry.
No, that's me, I think. I need to stop.
Can we start requesting projects now for faculty funds for which we do not have projects? Because many of us have been trying and having difficulty getting projects. So some have projects for some faculty funds, and then others are in a project in a lot of tasks. So it's inconsistent within units.
Okay, so you're saying if you don't currently have a project per faculty member, you would like to start that, and we'll work with the Chart of Accounts team to start getting projects put together. Yep.
We'd like to request more projects, yes.
Yep, okay. You can do that through the Chart of Accounts team, and I think there's a process in place to get that done, and we'll be very open to that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have a whole nother hour, people.
Hi. Will combo codes be eliminated?
Will they be eliminated? No.
So when you mean combo codes, are you talking about in PeopleSoft? PeopleSoft is cleaning up their combo codes to align with the combo codes that we're going to be allowing. So a combo code is pretty much the 10, string, the 10 segment string. It's a combination code. And you have combination codes that are linked to our same 10, combination codes in Oracle. So they're cleaning those up, and you will only be able to use valid UDO combinations that align with Oracle. So there's a big initiative in PeopleSoft. They're cleaning up to only allow the 2,200 UDOs. They're putting in the exact same cross-validation rules, the 43 rules that we have here. They're putting the exact same cross-validation rules into PeopleSoft. That's not something we can do something we don't need to do in SideQuest, because SideQuest actually has a direct read into Oracle and checks to see if the requisition has the right, combination on it. So in both, both feeder systems. Those are the business feeder systems, and they're both going to be aligned with our cross-validation rules and combo codes.
Hi, I have a kind of a department-specific question. I know currently a lot of our payroll is being charged to a UDO that's not going to be valid. How do you suggest that we correct that?
So you said a lot of your what is being
The
charged?
salary?
Oh, salary. So you'll have to do change your employee charging instructions to a valid UDO combination, and then you can do the effective date back to the beginning of the year if that's appropriate.
Okay.
Otherwise, whatever the appropriate effective date is. So you can start doing that now, or you could wait to get the report next week and just ensure and become familiar with your valid ones. So I would hate for you to do the charging instructions and put them on a different invalid one. So, but that's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you feel like you have a good sense of what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks? Okay, so I have another question over here. Steph. Oh. Right there, Steph. Steph, right in front of you.
Mine is I just want to know, really, do you expect any hiccups on June 30th?
What am I expecting, or what am I prepared for? I'm expecting none.
You're expecting none?
So that's a good question, and one that we really are going to monitor through these exception reports, right? So we hope to get out to everybody in those last couple of weeks that we're seeing. Like, my gut, and all it is a gut, is that we will see repeat offenders on the exception reports. And then we will do one-to-one meetings with them and get them through the changes that they need to make. Now, and quite frankly, if May 7th comes and I have, I don't know, I'm making up numbers now, 150,000 invalid, transactions, and May 20th comes and I have 170,000, and then May 30th comes and I still have 110,000, I'm going to start to panic and be like, all right, we're not getting our word across. We have not reached the right audience. We're not going to bring this university to a screeching halt on July 1 by implementing cross-validation rules that aren't ready. But I am confident that you guys are going to help me with this, right? We're going to get the word out to the people we need to get the word out to, and that those numbers are going to start dropping drastically. But we will be out in full force those last couple of weeks in June if that is not happening. So that is kind of where we see. One of the hiccups I see is, I feel like we're reaching a lot of people. I've probably talked to, 500 or 600 people over the last couple of days. On May 7th, when people start trying to put stuff in that I haven't been able to come to an open forum, and they get rejected, it's not going to be maybe I missed something. It's going to be this darn system isn't working again. And that upsets me. That's the first hiccup I think I might get. So we are staffing up internally that on May 7th, we are ready for those phone calls where people are calling the help desk and saying the system's not working, because we can address that. My concern is the people that don't call, the people that just get frustrated and don't call. So May 7th is another big day for us, right? We have to get the word out, even if people haven't attended, that there's a change on May 7th, so if you run into a problem, please call. If nothing else, and we're trying to get notices, like on RU Marketplace and PeopleSoft, so that when you guys bring up the system, there's maybe something in red that says, yo, something's different. So that is the first hiccup that I'm worried about. That, and my daughter just got her driver's license. So.
Hi, Kathy. Hi. So my question is related to grant. We have some grants, a multi-year grant, like 4-year grant that was converted from a fund source to new projects. 2 weeks ago, we found out the conversion was wrong. It was a cost share grant that was converted to 802. So the problem, they are trying to create a new account for us. But my question is, what happened with all the expenses in the wrong project? Grant office told us they don't know how to move it, all the expense for the last 3 years to the new account that's being created. So are you guys, will you be able to help in any way
So we may be able to answer your specific question offline, but this brings up another really important subject. So I do think that that particular issue, as it's pertaining to a grant, as many of you are aware, the other initiative that is going on that is, very much aligned with this is project review. If you are not aware, there was a significant change 2 weeks ago in that project, in that the project champion changed, the project leader changed. It is now President Bob Barchi. He has taken this under his wing. We meet every week, and everybody in the audience who manages projects will be reached out to, I think, prior to May 18th, where you will have your project data, suggested adjustments, and we need your feedback. And I think all of that will be part of that initiative, where that will be your opportunity to make sure that your grant is properly accounted for. So in addition to what we're asking you here to do today, please pay attention to your email when you receive those projects for review. One of the other things, when we looked at the timeline, you will be getting a lot of email from all of these type of communications are coming out from the Controller's Office website, email address. I know we love to ignore those types of emails, but they are very important, and please spread the word that when people are getting these emails on April 23rd, they actually need to open them and look at the report that's attached for this to be successful. So.
Who will be getting the emails? At what level?
So that's a great question, and we are working through that right now. So the issue is we know that the people who we identify as the owner of a UDO combination may not be the person transacting to it. So we're going to try to cascade them down through the business managers and then have them look at them, particularly because some of the UDO combinations really may be a mistake. So maybe it's your unit, but someone in another division is mistakenly using your unit with their division. So we're going to have to work through that, but we're starting at the business manager level and cascading it down. So if you think you should be getting it and you don't, reach out and we'll make that available.
Hi. The project review that you're speaking of, is that currently going to be just for sponsored projects and then move on to state and service?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Well, we will definitely be available for questions. One of my last slides is my contact information. Again, this is out there. One thing I will say is while you are welcome to contact me via my regular email address, you have a better shot if you have a chart of accounts question of going directly to budget@finance.rutgers.edu. I have 3 people monitoring that account, but I do answer every one of those emails myself within 48 hours. So this is really important to me. Don't get mixed up with those other 250 emails I get a day. I get many fewer in that, and we do make sure they get answered. If you have feedback, if you think I missed something, if you think one of these is a really bad idea because it's going to stop your business, you need to let us know. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great day.